What is going on, everybody? This is Anthony with VR 365, VR gaming news and discussion 364 days a year. Yeah, we had a little minor issue yesterday, but you know what? We are back. We are in the building. It is Saturday. It is November 24th. It is the day after Black Friday. Everybody is recovering from hitting up all the stores and avoiding live shooting incidents. Yeah, a lot of that is going on around the USA as well. We sure love our guns, don't we, here in the USA? But basically, guys, today I've got a number of topics to get into. If you saw the thumbnail that we had going for the live event, basically one of the topics that we're going to get into today is our continued discussion on Game of the Year 2018. Yeah, we are doing a long form discussion when we're considering Games of the Year for 2018. We are starting at the very beginning. We're looking at January, February, March, all the way through. And so far already we have covered January, we have covered February, and today we are going to go ahead and get into March. So we're going to have that discussion coming up in a little bit, but we have a few other topics to get into before that. So let's go ahead and see what we have going on. I need to go ahead and pop out my chat so that I have it over here and I can look at it, and let me get my show topics up over here so I can look at those. Okay, yeah, so first off, I do want to apologize for the mishaps yesterday. You know, I don't really have a good excuse. Basically, what happened was I was pretty much gone all day that morning. I got back here about 10 minutes before the show was going to start, and I thought that would be plenty of time. You know, I thought I would just jump into this room, get things set up, everything would work like great, we would be back in business. I didn't think it would be a big deal. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was a problem on YouTube's end or what it was, but it just wasn't working. And I didn't really have a bunch of stuff prepared anyway, so I just felt like calling off the show was the best idea. Now, the one thing I do want to say, though, is I really apologize to anybody out there that actually set aside some time for this show and planned for this show and wasted, you know, 5-10 minutes waiting for this show and then it didn't happen. My apologies for that, because that is not cool. I understand some people, you know, they see that a show is coming up at a certain time and, you know, they plan to be there, and then I didn't have a show. My apologies. But that's going to happen every once in a while. That's why we call ourselves VR 364. No, we are VR 365, and normally we are going to be here every day for you, but every once in a while things go bad. All right, so anyway, let's go ahead and see what is going on in chat. I am Ruts is in the building, and he says, Anthony, someone in F Reality. Oh, I'm supposed to be looking over here. My bad. Jim Hall, my producer, would get upset at me for this. But I Am Rut said that someone in F Reality said they had family over for Thanksgiving and played Beat Saber. 3 of them have already bought PSVR since then. Nostradamus Jr. does it again. Yeah, I did talk, of course, about Beat Saber on the Thanksgiving holiday. I thought that would be a really big deal for Thanksgiving. Honestly, it kind of arrived a little bit late. I mean, arriving this week, somebody has to buy the game, download it, you know, get it installed and everything, and then also bring their PSVR over to their family celebration. Hopefully, a lot of people still did it. I kind of was hoping there would be a free demo, but that didn't happen as far as I know. But, you know, a lot of people probably did show Beat Saber off to their families for the Thanksgiving Day holiday, so that was probably really cool. And then also, a lot of families are spending the entire kind of late week and weekend with their families, and then maybe they'll be departing on Sunday. So there's still a lot of opportunities to show newbies some Beat Saber, or maybe show them your Oculus Go, or any of those types of things as well. Hybrid Energy is in the building. Lethal Weasel VR. Fluke is here. T-Dub. Great Tantrum. Aloha. What is going on? Not sure if you're in the beautiful state of Hawaii. That is the state of Hawaii. Does anybody know where that quote comes from? It is from a movie. Okay, VR Spry Guy said, "You beat it to me, Anthony." VR 364. Kev Gretz says, "Guns and $50 OLED TVs don't mix very well." No, you know, it's honestly, it's just one of these things where you get so many people in a small location, and a lot of crazy shit can end up happening. Also, it's one of these things too, somebody pulls out a gun, somebody gets shot in the leg or whatever, that's a non-news story. But in this modern era of instantaneous news, and with all the networks looking for any kind of thing to talk about, those things just get blown way the hell out of proportion, in my personal opinion. Hybrid Energy says, "Hello all, hope you all survived Thanksgiving." Airman 929565 is up in the building. He says, "By the way, the Odyssey Plus deal is not on Amazon. That was for the original Odyssey." Okay, my apologies for that. I was on the Vive subreddit, or maybe it was the Oculus Rift subreddit, whatever day that was, and it was like 5 minutes before the show was going to start, and somebody said, "Odyssey Plus now on Amazon," and I clicked on the link and it looked like an Odyssey, but it wasn't the Plus, and I noticed it later when I was doing my timestamps that, this is not the Plus. Hopefully there is a Plus on Amazon somewhere, but maybe not. So my bad on that. Mistakes are... Hey, Noah is in the building. Mr. Magic Leap is here. Push the button. Dicky Boy 23. Oh my God, he missed his dad's funeral for yesterday's show. I doubt that. I really hope that that is not actually the case. But anyways, yeah, so apologies for that, but we'll go ahead and move on.com. Okay, so, or no, moveon.org. It's moveon.org. My bad on that one. Okay, so the first story that I wanted to go to, let's go ahead and switch over to our web browser breakdown here. And I wanted to talk about this editorial. I don't know if anybody saw this. This was on Upload VR. Now, this, of course, is an editorial piece, which basically means this is one dude's opinion. And, you know, so it's just an opinion. It's not fact. But they're just putting this out there as a random opinion. And this is Jamie Feltham of Upload VR, and basically what they're saying here is, well, what he is saying is that Xbox is well poised to dominate VR next gen. And let me go ahead and pull up my browser here so I can move this along. And he's going to give a couple of takes on this. First of all, he basically says, look, yes, we know that there's no Xbox VR solution coming to this current console generation, but what about the next generation? The PlayStation 5 and Xbox, whatever it's going to be called, they're both looming in the shadows. So what about the next generation? And that's where he gets into it. And he starts off saying the technical foundations are in place. Microsoft just bought some of VR's best developers, and content could be there in a New York minute is basically what he's talking about here. And I wanted to comment on a couple of these things. I agree with some of it. I disagree with other parts of it. Okay, first off, we can talk about the technical foundations are in place. And what he's basically talking about here is the Windows mixed reality platform. It's already out there. It's a well-established product. And what Microsoft did was they created a reference design, and then they licensed that reference design to Acer, Lenovo, Hewlett-Packard, Samsung, all these other companies to make Windows mixed reality headsets. And of course, a lot of hubbub is going on right now about the Odyssey Plus with its anti-SDE filter, the OLED screens, the deep blacks, and all of those sorts of things. A lot of talk is going on there. So the technical foundations are in place from a standpoint. They have inside-out tracking. They have this Windows mixed reality platform, and basically they can flip a switch. But another thing Jamie Feltham is also talking about is, remember that this next Xbox VR, well, the first Xbox VR headset is still potentially several years away, because we have to realize, look, Microsoft is going to introduce their next Xbox console. They're going to have a big deal about that when they finally get around to doing that. Possibly November 2020, I think, is what a lot of people think. Maybe November 2019. I mean, there's an outside chance, although that would piss off a hell of a lot of people that just grabbed the Xbox One X, especially on these Black Friday deals for $400. By the way, side little rant, Xbox One X is actually a freaking powerful little PC that has been shoved into a very small box. If I didn't care about VR, I'd probably just have an Xbox One X and I'd be playing Red Dead Redemption, Fallout 76, all those kinds of games on an Xbox One X, because no fuss, no muss. It's a pretty damn powerful PC that they squeezed in there, even though it has that Jaguar processor holding everything back. But this next Xbox console is still probably a couple of years out, and I don't think Sony or anybody is going to release a brand new console and then follow it up with a VR headset in the same window of time. That's just too much money to ask everybody to fork over. They're going to introduce the console, and then the VR attachment, the VR headset, whatever's coming later, that's going to come a little bit later, so people have time to recover from that initial burst of money that they had to throw out on the console. So Jamie is saying, look, this potential Xbox VR headset is still several years out, which means we could see improvements in terms of display resolution, FOV, possibly in integrated wireless, which is something Phil Spencer has talked about a number of times. They believe that they believe that VR in the living room probably should be wireless, and so that's part of it as well. So we do have the technical foundations. I kind of agree. I will agree with Jamie Feltham on this point, especially if we're considering Windows Mixed Reality 2.0, which I believe that is going to happen. And maybe the first Windows Mixed Reality 2.0 headset might be an Xbox VR headset for their next-gen Xbox, which should have 2.0 inside-out tracking built in. Even if there is no wireless, it should have that. And then it also could have some stuff from Microsoft's Project Prism, which is all about taking augmented reality and adding it to VR in a low-cost VR headset that could have amazing augmented reality added to it. Not sure if they're going to be able to squeeze that into this Xbox VR headset that quickly, but the technical foundations are in place. I will give Jamie Feltham that point. Now, the next point that he makes here is that Microsoft owns some of the best VR developers, and I believe this is a bit of a reach, okay? And what he's talking about here, he's talking about Ninja Theory, inXile Entertainment, and 343 Industries. So Ninja Theory, they've made Dext, which was okay, but not a lot of people are raving about Dext. In fact, it doesn't really end up in the top 100 VR games on any of the rankings. Now, it might occasionally end up in the top 200, but nobody's really ranting and raving about Dext. The next thing that Ninja Theory brought us in VR was Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, and that is a powerful display of VR technology. Even though it's a flat game that has been converted, it's pretty damn impressive. A lot of people really love Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, and that game does rank very highly. And then another game that Ninja Theory is working on right now as we speak is Vader Immortal for the Oculus Quest. It's expected to be a launch game for the Oculus Quest. That is going to be huge. And so Ninja Theory they've been working on VR, so we'll give Ninja Theory a little bit of pub there. inXile Entertainment, of course, they brought us The Mage's Tale, which was exclusive on Oculus Rift, later came to Steam, and is going to be coming to PlayStation VR at some point in the not-too-distant future. And inXile Entertainment continues to work on a future open-world survival RPG for VR. Apparently that project has not been canceled. That project is still in effect. And so In Exile Entertainment is banging away. And then 343 Industries, they made Halo Recruit, which may have done more damage than it did good. But we know, without question, 343 Industries, we know that Microsoft has probably gone to 343 Industries. They've taken probably 25 to 30 people out of that team and said, look, you guys are just going to bang away on Halo VR, experiment on Halo VR, work on whatever Halo VR. Eventually we will have a headset. Eventually we will have some kind of product along these lines. Work on Halo VR. So they're going to have that, of course, no question about it. Now, the last point is where I think it really, really falls short. His last point here is that content could be there in an instant. And he's basically saying Sony, Oculus, HTC have had to build up respectable ecosystems for headsets from scratch. Microsoft could benefit overnight from the swath of VR developers hungry to put their content on as many platforms as possible. And I'm not going to deny that. And of course, their next Xbox system is going to be based off x86 technology. So you're going to be able to port these games over to whatever this next Xbox platform is pretty easily. So yeah, Super Hot, Beat Saber, Arizona Sunshine, all these games will come over very, very quickly. But I don't think that's the kind of library that people are really interested. They're interested on more of these custom VR experiences, and that's where Sony really has it in the bag. I mean, Sony is building up a ginormous VR library, Wipeout VR, just all kinds of great things that are on the Sony's platform that are nowhere else. Bound, Static, Resident Evil 7, just all kinds of stuff on PSVR, PlayStation VR Worlds, and they continue to add to that. Blood and Truth, Astrobot. Microsoft has to catch up in that regard. So I don't know that I really agree with this whole thing, but you know what? It's one of these stories on a slow news day. You got to come up with something. So, you know, it's not a bad story to go ahead and roll with. That is the editorial over there at Upload VR. Okay, so why don't I go ahead and bounce back over to chat. Let's see what some people are talking about in regards to this article here. Airman929565 says, no biggie, ordered it from Microsoft. Okay, that's probably, he's talking about the Samsung Odyssey Plus and the mistake I made on that one. Hybrid Energy says, I just bought a Microsoft Odyssey Plus. Just kidding, I have a Vive Pro wireless. I don't want that crap. Xbox new HMD named VR 360. Maybe so, yeah, maybe it'll be the Xbox 362 to go along with the VR 360. Who knows what'll happen there. Lethal Weasel says competition is a good thing. I'm all for it. Hybrid Energy says I just can't do anything wired anymore. Once you try wireless, it's over. Don't try it because you will be spoiled. And that is something I've noticed screwing around with an Oculus Go and getting used to having no wires, playing something like Eclipse Edge of Light. Yeah, you do get back to these wired systems. It is a bit of an irritant. Hybrid Energy says, win an Xbox One X at Taco Bell every 10 minutes. And who can say no to a chicken quesadilla? You know what's great at Taco Bell? They have this thing called the triple layer nachos. And it's hecka cheap, right? Here's my pro tip. Order that, but say no red sauce and add some extra beans. Really, really good. It's really, really good as a little snack to kind of hold you over. King Hell says Xbox 2 will release February 2nd of 2020. It's possible. He's thinking of the 2/2/2020 relationship there. Hybrid Energy says, well, Microsoft does develop the mixed reality ones. Just plug them into an Xbox and release them. And I've always argued, though, that it's not that simple because it's the support. You got to understand that Microsoft, the Xbox brand, sells very well to middle America. No, I'm just kidding on that one. But you know what? I'm serious, though. The Xbox does sell very well to your Walmart, Target, Best Buy shoppers. Some of these same people, like, they get an HD TV and they don't even plug in an HDMI to the back of it. They're still using red, white, and yellow plugs and using composite video on their brand new 4K TVs. So Microsoft has to be aware of the support factor. It's a big deal. Hybrid Energy says you're not going to dominate anything VR by mooching off the PC VR library. And Chris Gould says, I'm not at all convinced that Xbox is interested in VR at all. No money to be made. Game services, well, that's a different matter. Well, what I am convinced is Microsoft is eventually going to get into this game. I've said it a million times that they've dodged a bullet. They've been able to avoid it. There's been really no pressure of any significance on them all of this time. Think of all the money they've saved in comparison to Sony. They're going to be later to the party, but are they going to miss anything? Not really, but I do believe Microsoft will have a VR headset at some point in time. VR is just going to get better and better and better, and Microsoft will eventually have to come into the fold, because we're talking about maybe November 2020 for that next Xbox console, and then November 2021 possibly for their VR headset. That is a long time away, and VR could be a lot more mainstream by then. So I do believe they will make a comeback. I mean, I do believe they will come back to VR. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to our web browser here. Now, what I wanted to do, the next little story I have, and this is not a big story by any stretch of the imagination here. Let me see if I can find it. I know, oh, here we go. Okay, so the Steam Autumn Sale has begun, and it does last until November 27th at 10 a.m. Pacific. Have you guys noticed that a lot of things start on Pacific time and they end on Pacific time because the left coast is the best coast? Yeah, it's all about Pacific time, baby, because a lot of, well, you know, Silicon Valley, and then, of course, Valve is in Seattle. They are on the West Coast, which is the best coast. But yeah, the Steam Autumn Sale is going on. We've already had a ton of incredible deals in the VR gaming industry over this last week or so. I mean, just ridiculous deals. Every day I'm up here, I'm talking about incredible, unbelievable discounts. I know Smashbox Arena is like 75% off. Talos Principle was under 14 bucks. Just so much good stuff. And now, in addition to this, we're having this Steam Autumn Sale, and there are a couple of interesting deals. The ones that really jumped out to me is Battlezone Gold Edition for 9 bucks, 75% off. Now, Battlezone is a sit-down game where you're basically going to want to use a controller and you're going to want to be seated, but I think it's pretty darn beautiful, and I think it has this like Tron look to it that is pretty darn cool. 9 bucks, I don't think that's too bad. Elite Dangerous for 12 bones, 60% off. I have never, ever played Elite Dangerous. Can you believe that? But people just rant and rave about it. Doom VFR is only 15. That's pretty decent for Doom, especially if you got a high-end PC rig that can really push that and you can super sample it. If you got a 2080 Ti and you really want to run it through its paces and super sample a little bit, Doom VFR would probably look damn good on that. Project Cars 2 for 20 bucks, pretty good. We recently grabbed it for VR Roundtable. Steve, myself, and I believe Gary checked that out recently. So there are some nice deals out there. There's a lot of good deals all over the place. That is the Steam Autumn Sale. Okay, coming back over here, one of the things in the news, let me go ahead and grab a trailer for this. There is a new product that is available out there, and I know all of you guys are going to want to jump on this product immediately. This is a deal, a steal of a deal. This product was announced officially and is available officially on Black Friday, so it's going to be a great deal, of course. Well, let's go ahead and check out the trailer for this new product, and we can talk about it when the trailer is done. Yep, there you go. That is the Vive Pro McLaren Edition, and this is available now, I believe, for the low price of like $1,550. But you do get the nice orange and purple look. It actually is a pretty cool look. I'm a fan of purple combined with orange. I do think that is a pretty sweet look. Not a Denver Broncos fan, but if you are a Denver Broncos fan, this is pretty much a must-own, right? But let's go ahead and bounce over here to the web page. I believe I have the web page where they're talking about this, the Vive Pro McLaren Edition. Look at how beautiful that all looks. Look at that nice new box that you're going to get that has the purple and the orange. You got the orange look right here. You got the orange buttons. Orange trigger? Or no, that's the back of the box. So maybe just a little orange button here. Now, what do you actually get out of this deal? Well, you get a 6-month Viveport subscription, and we know how important that is. You also get R Factor 2 McLaren Edition and the McLaren Garage VR experience, and that's pretty much it. That's basically what you're getting over here. It's pretty much all the same specs that we get with the normal HTC Vive Pro. You're basically paying an extra $150 to look a little bit cooler than the guy down the street that also has an HTC Vive Pro. And if you are a huge Denver Broncos fan, hey, I don't blame you for grabbing this and maybe putting a little Denver Broncos sticker somewhere on there as well. It is rolling with those Denver Broncos colors. Okay, let's go ahead and bounce over here to chat, see what some of the people are talking about after some of this discussion here. Lethal Weasel VR says, I do think Sony's investment in building a community will pay off in the generations to come. Yeah, that's something that Sony, they've won this generation. Let's be clear about it. They've won it going away. I mean, it's a straight up boat race. Sony has just won this generation, and that is unbelievably valuable from the standpoint that they got the psychological hooks in you, man. Because when you start buying all these digital games on PSN, you're creating this library, you're investing in this platform. It's going to be very hard for you to make a switch to Xbox when you've got all this stuff that has already been locked up into the Sony ecosystem, and that is a huge advantage for them. Hybrid Energy says, I think I speak for a lot of VR gamers when it comes to sales, and the problem is I keep seeing games on awesome sales, games that I already own. Yeah, you know, going back to the sales thing, there's too many damn sales. There really is. There are too many VR sales all the time. Why would anybody ever buy a VR game at full price unless you just absolutely have to have it? Because if you have any kind of slight amount of patience, you can wait around and you get something for 50% off, 70% off, 80% off. And it's all the same games over and over and over again. Elite Dangerous, Project Cars, you know, Gorn, Sariento, Super Hot. They go on sale over and over and over again. It's kind of crazy. And I feel like it makes it really difficult, actually, for these indie developers out there that are trying to make something happen, and they're dealing with all these freaking sales. It is really harsh. And now, okay, we're talking a little bit about the McLaren here. Hybrid Energy says, does it come with a McLaren, or is it cheaper to buy a McLaren and get a free Vive with it? Paul Smith says, you can't even see your headset when you're playing VR. Yeah, but you know what? If you're a streamer, would look pretty cool, right? To kind of have those Denver colors, those Denver Broncos colors on your headset. That would look pretty dope, especially if you got like an aftermarket VR covers leather cover that was orange to kind of go with the whole thing. Maybe VR covers is going to do that. Yeah, imagine if that foam was orange right there. That would be even cooler, right? Or maybe really garish and ugly. That's a possibility as well. Lethal Weasel VR says, Vive Pro has missed its window with me. We have wider field of views now. Yeah, I mean, the Vive Pro really should just be the new HTC Vive. It should not be a real premium item, because I do like those orange straps. I didn't mention the orange straps, you know, for your wrists. Those orange straps are pretty dope as well. Hybrid Energy says, me, everyone looks ridiculous in an HMD. Yeah. I don't know. There's some people that look kind of cool in the HMD, especially if they got like a big beard and they're kind of going like this and they're looking up in the air. Looks pretty cool. It's actually a pretty sweet look. Airman 929565, just need an orange marker and save the money. Nah, it's not going to look quite as dope as that. I do think it looks kind of cool, but I mean, yeah, the price is just astronomically out of control there, especially when you could possibly grab something like the Odyssey Plus for $300. You got controllers, it's got its own tracking. I mean, really, do you want to pay 4-5 times what you pay for an Odyssey Plus on sale? It seems kind of crazy. But yeah, Nathy and Mike from F Reality didn't seem impressed with the Pimax HMD on the show earlier. Anthony, Sony locks people out of their libraries. I can't play my PS1 classics anymore. Don't know about that, but I do know that there is this psychological thing. Steam has a lot of you guys. Let's be honest with it. It's the reason so many of you will defend any little thing that Steam does. You will defend them lock, stock, and barrel. And the reason is you've got a psychological investment in Steam. Take somebody like MameFan, for example. Dude's got like 400, 500 games on Steam over like the last 12 or 11 years he's been using Steam. 500 games. You want to talk about a psychological investment in Steam? Of course you're going to defend a platform like that because your entire library is in that platform and you feel good about it. And Sony's been able to do that in this generation with VR. Nintendo has passed on VR. Xbox has passed on VR up to this point in time. And they're not really suffering tremendously from it, but you do reap what you sow, and Sony will have this psychological advantage, not only with that built-in library of exclusive PlayStation VR content that no one else has, like Tumble VR, Bound, PlayStation VR Worlds, and all these other exclusives that have only been on the Sony system. They're going to have that, but they're also going to have that psychological advantage as well. It is a pretty big deal. Okay, so one of the things I have been talking about recently is a game. Let me switch over here. Oops, I got to pop this up. Okay, so Tabletop Basketball VR. I've been talking about this game a number of different times. I'm still kind of interested in this game. This game is available. It came out on November 22nd, kind of a stealth launch. I was covering this game and somehow I missed it, but I noticed it yesterday. Tabletop Basketball VR is currently available and it's out there for a 10 spot. Now the thing is, here's the deal. If you look at one of these quotes right here, this is a kind of an interesting quote down here. It says, "Been working hard getting the initial release ready for launch in early access. Everything is playable and I completed the required items I thought the game needed for early access. Please keep in mind we are still working on the game and I'm looking for your help in which areas we should be focusing on." And just a number of little fixes and things that they've done for the game. So it really kind of sounds like this is very much an early access kind of game. Like they're basically saying, look, we're putting this out there. It's $10. Maybe it's not fully dialed in and developed. And so that's kind of a situation that you get into. If you buy a game like this in early access, you got to be understanding of that. But then at the same time, you got to wonder, well, are they really going to come through for me? Because we've seen it happen repeatedly that games will come out into early access. The devs will promise you the stars and the moon, and sometimes they never deliver it. In fact, I think more often than not, it doesn't improve that much. It improves marginally. Now, sometimes we'll have stuff like Space Pirate Trainer and Carnage Chronicles where the devs will go above and beyond the Call of Duty and they will just bang away and continue to update, continue to polish, continue to spit shine a game and improve it by leaps and bounds over its lifespan in the early access program. And I don't know if that's going to happen with Tabletop Basketball VR, but I have reached out to this developer, Red Zone Studios, and I told him, you know, hey, if you want to shoot me a review code, preview code, whatever, I'm happy to check this game out. But I also said, this is something I tell all developers usually, is look, if you're willing to take money then I'm going to give my real impression of the game. You're taking people's money, so I believe you are open to criticism. I do understand the early access idea. I understand the early access concept. I really do. But at the same time, if you're taking money, you're open to widespread criticism. Now, I will say this, my criticism, you know, I will keep in mind the fact that it is an early access game and it may improve, but I'm still going to give my straight take, because my allegiance is to my viewers, my readers, and anybody out there that is checking this stuff out. I got to give them the raw data, you know, the raw data. Yeah, I got to give them the raw data on it. Okay, so let's go ahead and bounce back over here to chat. See what some people are talking about. King Health says Sony will drop the ball on PS5. Do we have an X-bot in the house? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe Sony will. It kind of seems like in the console gaming industry that there's a good year, a bad year, a good year, a bad year. It seems to always flip-flop like that. Like Xbox wins it one year, Sony wins it the next year. You know, there does seem to be kind of a back and forth, so maybe Sony will drop the ball on PlayStation 5. Sometimes their head gets really, really big. This kind of happened with PlayStation 2, I think, and PlayStation 3 as well. Their head got a little bit big for their britches, and they didn't really deliver that great of a product. Or it was just overpriced and they told you you had to have 2 jobs and all that type of thing. MameFan says, I have 600 something games, but I'm just a beginner. There's some Steam players out there that probably have 1,000 different games on Steam. Fluke says, scary to think about how many games I've never played that are sitting probably in his Steam library as well. Hybrid Energy says, anyone else imagined fighting games like this first? Play with gamepad from the perspective of some guy sitting watching it. I have no idea what the hell he's talking about there. I haven't watched the F reality show. Been at a kid's birthday party. What did I miss? That is Paradise Decay. Well, basically one of the things we've talked about earlier today, Paradise, we talked quite a bit about a editorial that Upload VR was running about how Xbox is poised to potentially dominate next generation VR. I kind of discussed that a little bit, and that's pretty much what we've discussed so far. We are going to get into some Game of the Year award type stuff here in just a second. But you know what? Before I do that, oh, wait, let me get to one other comment here. Fluke says, I say we blame Anthony for our Steam backlogs. We're losing an hour of gaming every day because of this stream. Yeah, I thought he was going to blame me for constantly hyping up certain games that are on sale, which I do that a lot as well. Here's my suggestion to everybody out there that has a Steam library that is just overflowing. Make this rule. Make a ironclad rule for yourself that says if you're gonna buy a game, a VR game, you have to play it the same day. Make that rule, and then maybe you'll decide not to buy a few games, and maybe that's for the best, because we don't want to collect games like Pokemon. You know, why collect these games? You don't even have a physical case to show anybody. You don't have artwork or anything. Let's not collect games like Pokemon, although it's good for the industry in general. So maybe go ahead and keep collecting if you guys want to do that. But why don't we go ahead and get into a little bit of our Game of the Year discussion, because we don't want to. I don't want to run out of too much time here and get too far along. Now, what we need to do before we get into March is we need to recap where we are right now. So let's talk about what we covered in the month of February. A recap here on the biggest VR games of February 2018. You might remember In Death arrived on February 1st. Sprint Vector arrived February 13th. Brass Tactics, a real banger of a strategy game, February 22nd. And Moss hit PlayStation VR as a temporary exclusive on February 27th. So those were the biggest games of February, as a little bit of a recap here. And I will now go ahead and give you the recap of our 2 games of the month so far. And best VR game of the month, January, of course, went to Primordian. I had to give it to In Death, ladies and gentlemen. I had to give it to In Death. Now, I love Moss like everybody else, and I love Brass Tactics. In fact, maybe I should have gave it to Brass Tactics, honestly, if I'm kind of like thinking outside of myself. But I just put so many damn hours into In Death. And that's like, if you want to judge what games really, really speak to you, look at the hours played. I mean, I played Moss maybe 5 hours, if that, on a couple of different platforms. I played Brass Tactics maybe 7, 8 hours, maybe 9 hours or something like that. I played Sprint Vector maybe 5, 6, 7 hours. In Death, I probably put 50 hours into In Death. And In Death is a beautiful game where if you've got a 25-minute window of time, you can fire up that headset, you can jump into In Death and just get you a quick 25-minute game, which is a beautiful thing. So I did give the monthly winner to In Death, but boy, was that a tough decision right there in the month of February. So now we got to get, hold on a sec here, I got to grab my, well, you know what, actually, wait a minute. Before we get into the best games of March, one thing that I did want to cover really briefly is March was kind of lame. And it was kind of lame, and I'll give you a couple of the games that didn't quite hit the mustard. Didn't quite hit the mustard? Didn't quite cut the mustard. So these games didn't quite make my March list, but they did come out in the month of March. So this is March 2018 releases that don't quite cut the mustard. Of course, we got Bravo Team on March 6th. That was a PlayStation VR exclusive. A lot of people were super hyped on Bravo Team, super massive games. I mean, these are the guys that brought us Rush of Blood, just an incredible game. They brought us Tumble VR. Those are two of the best VR games on PlayStation VR without a shadow of a doubt. Their next big game was Bravo Team. Bravo Team was going to be a big game, right? No, not quite. Bravo Team was kind of a dud. Then we had Virtual Reality Football Club, VRFC. That arrived on March 6th. It hit PlayStation VR and it hit Steam and Oculus Store. Virtual Reality Football Club. Now, they've changed their name about 4 different times. It became Football Nation VR, and I don't know what they're calling it today. But it was an interesting game, an interesting idea, an interesting concept. You're basically playing soccer with your hands. You're kind of moving your controllers like this, which control, it's like these are your feet. You're kind of moving your feet and you're like tapping the ball here, tapping the ball there, running like this. This is a game. I'll tell you what, if you've got a wireless adapter, you might want to try Virtual Reality Football Club and put it in the experimental room scale mode where you can go anywhere, because this will yank the cable straight out of your computer if you don't have wireless. Don't even try the room scale mode for Virtual Reality Football Club unless you have a wireless headset. I almost killed my Oculus Rift. It's a halfway decent game, but doesn't quite cut the mustard. And Arc Park, pretty big disappointment. A lot of people were really looking forward to a killer dinosaur experience in VR, and it just didn't quite bring the noise. Now, what do we want to talk about in the month of March 2018? What were the bangers? And let me go ahead and grab the first banger of the month. And the first banger is Apex Construct from Fast Travel Games. Now, I'm a fan of this game. When this game originally came out, it was a temporary exclusive on PSVR for a short window of time, and I don't know if that pissed a lot of people off or what it was. Then it finally came to Steam, and I tried the PSVR version. I played through pretty much 95% of the game on PlayStation VR. Then when I got the Steam version, or actually I think I have the Oculus version, I played it on Oculus to see the graphics a little bit better than they were before, and to have a little bit better tracking in like kind of the room scale thing as well, 360-degree tracking that PSVR can't really do. And I'm a fan of this game. Now, this isn't the best thing since sliced bread, but it is a solid game, and I believe this has been on sale very, very recently. This is Apex Construct by Fast Travel Games. You know what? I don't have my dates here, but I think this came out around like March 22nd or something like that. I can't find, I don't know what I did with my dates. Don't have my dates here, but yeah, Apex Construct. Okay, March 20th. I just saw there. It released on March 20th. That is Apex Construct. So it is in the running, in my opinion, for one of the best VR games that was released in the month of March. And I think this was a PSVR game in March. So I don't think it hit Steam in March. So that is the first one, Apex Construct. Okay, what is the second one? This is something that Scion VR, I don't know if he's in chat, but Scion VR, this is for you. Now, this is Catan VR. Now, this originally hit the Oculus Rift and the Oculus Go as an exclusive, available both on the Go and on the Rift. It was not available on Steam initially, and I believe this arrived in late March as well. I don't have the exact release date. I had it written down somewhere, and now I've lost it, so that's my fault. Don't have the actual release date here for Catan, but I do know that it was late March. And a lot of people rant and rave about this one. I have not tried it, but a lot of people feel like it is a really good experience. Look, you can play it on all kinds of different platforms. Gear VR, it looks like Gear VR, Oculus Go, the Oculus Rift, and now it's on Steam as well. And I don't know if they have cross-play between all of them, but one of the things we've seen recently with PokerStars VR is being in a shared board game or card game like experience is a really cool treat. Especially, you can see the person's head, you can kind of see their hands. I mean, they're kind of doing that. You have these little masks, and then you kind of see their hands moving around if they have, you know, if they have rifts or whatever. This would probably be really fun and really cool. I haven't gotten into this, but it does look pretty dope. And Scion VR is a really huge fan of this, and I know that this would be his game of March 2018. And then, of course, the last game that I wanted to get into in regards to March 2018, well, you guys should pretty much know which game I'm going to talk about now. We're talking about Wipeout VR, baby. Wipeout VR. It arrived late in the month of March in 2018, and you want to talk about a legitimate banger, okay? So what is the game of the month for March 2018? It is no contest. Wipeout runs away with it. It is not, it's not even a contest. It's like Usain Bolt racing against a couple of kids from your local neighborhood. Wipeout VR is absolutely sensational. I did a show a long time ago. It was one of my daily vlogs where I just ranted and raved about this game for about 9 minutes. And that particular episode, that old episode of VR Game Rankings, has like 10,000 views because people actually saw my rant, and it was from the heart. Like, it was a legitimate, real deal rant. I was like being really truthful and honest, and I was just so freaking blown away by it. And people actually like posted a link to that rant in like some of the different forums and stuff, and a lot of other people saw it because they didn't know who I was or what VR Game Rankings is or anything like that, but they were like, just check out this guy rant about Wipeout VR for 9 minutes, because I was just freaking blown away by it. It is still freaking incredible. It is an absolute achievement. Everybody that was involved in this, I mean, they could have just basically made it kind of 3D, pseudo 3D, and kind of brought it into VR. They didn't have to go the extra mile, but they did. It feels like the game was just built from the ground up for VR. I mean, just dialed in perfectly for VR. And then the other thing about Wipeout is, like, I'm in there racing around. I'm looking at the visuals as it's passing by me at thousands of miles an hour. Well, not thousands, but, you know, hundreds of miles an hour, these visuals shooting by me. And the trackside detail is very good. How did they do this? Just absolute wizards that did this. EPOS Game Studios, I forget, there's a couple of different developers, like really 3 different developers kind of combined and worked on this. And just a absolute achievement. I know there's a lot of people that recently acquired PlayStation VRs, or maybe you just acquired them this week, you know, with these incredible deals with Astrobot and Moss, and the Creed bundle was super hot, and all of these things. So a lot of new PSVR players are coming aboard. But a lot of you guys may have forgotten about Wipeout VR. Do not forget about Wipeout VR. Do not sleep on Wipeout VR. You want to talk about a game that should probably been mentioned among the 5 games that they mentioned at the VR Game Awards, like up there with Astrobot and Beat Saber. Wipeout VR should probably be in the mix. So those are my 3 biggest games of March 2018. We also talked about a few March 2018 games that didn't quite cut the mustard. Of course, we're going to be going on to April in our next segment. This is something that we're going to do in February and December. We're going to take our time with it. There's no need to rush. We can take our time. We can be slowly and surely going through all the best games of 2018 and kind of marinate with them and celebrate with them. And that is a beautiful thing. Now, if you disagree with a lot of the stuff I'm saying here, if you think that, maybe Arc Park should be in the mix, maybe Arc Park should have won Game of the Month, you feel like it got screwed, Virtual Reality Football Club, Football Nation VR, whatever the hell they're calling it, they got screwed. If you disagree, go ahead and leave a comment after this episode. By the way, that reminds me, my producer Jim Hall is very upset with me. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. That is a beautiful thing as well. Yeah, definitely subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. But we really need some comments after the fact on these YouTube videos. That definitely helps us out as well. So if you disagree with some of these choices, maybe you disagree with In Death. Maybe you feel like Moss got absolutely robbed for Game of the Month of February 2018. Whatever, go ahead, jump into chat. Jump into the comments afterward. It is a great thing to do. The other thing I want to remind everybody out there, in case you don't know about this already, is we have a Discord server. And you know what? The VR365 Discord server, everyone is invited. Shh. Turtle may bounce your ass if you say the wrong thing, so be careful about that. But everybody's invited to our VR365 Discord. Go ahead, come over there, check it out. It's great for these kinds of discussions. It's absolutely perfect for these kinds of discussions. We actually have a special text channel for talking about the best VR games, like rankings of VR games on PC VR and rankings of PlayStation VR games as well. So, hop in. We got off topic. We got all kinds of stuff. So definitely join us over there at our Discord server. It's definitely a lot of fun, and we're kind of building a community over there. It's really cool. So we have a community here in chat, and everybody's meeting up in chat, and it's really awesome. But if you want to extend it for the other 23 hours of the day when we're not live, you can do that over there at our Discord server. Everybody's very friendly and nice. It's a cool community, so hop over there and check it out as well. Okay, let me bounce back over here to chat. Let me see. Oh, I'm supposed to be looking over here. My producer would be pissed off. My bad. Okay, let me check this out over here. Chris Gould says Wipeout demonstrates how far other devs have fallen short. They do. They really have demonstrated, because look at what they've done. Jim Hall says Tetris or Wipeout. Okay, let's not get involved with Tetris. Phil Yarn says, imagine Wipeout on PC. They did a damn good job on that PlayStation VR version, and it even looks pretty damn good on an OG PS4. I mean, yeah, it does look better on the Pro, but it still looks great on the OG PS4. That's one of my arguments, guys, in regards to like Oculus Quest and stuff. If it had a Snapdragon 845 in there, and if it could kind of get up to OG PS4 graphical level, imagine Wipeout VR running in a Quest looking absolutely perfect like Wipeout VR looks on an OG PS4. That's pretty good graphics. I think I could live with that. That's why I still have some hype on the Oculus Quest. I know some of you graphics whores out there not looking forward to the Oculus Quest, but I'm still excited about it from that standpoint, because I know the right developer can squeeze a hell of a lot out of these platforms. What else are people talking? Oh, Chris Gold says Redout is great in 2D, but a no in VR for me. Although I know somebody really liked Redout in VR. People have talked about Redout Enhanced Edition or something like that. There's also Distance. There's a number of Wipeout like games that are on PC VR that you can probably check out. And R. Grambo is saying Barf Out VR. Well, you know what? They do have the different motion sickness brackets and vignettes or whatever that are on the side to kind of help you with possible motion sickness. Of course, one of the first things I did was turn all that crap off. I want to be immersed as much as possible in Wipeout VR. And talking about it today, man, I got to go back in there and revisit it. It's been a long time since I played it. Absolutely one of the best games of 2018. All year long, one of the best games of 2018, and clearly the best game of March 2018. Alrighty, folks. Well, we've been going for a while here, and I am starving. I am absolutely starving. I had an early breakfast today. My bad. Starving. Need to get myself some lunch. It is almost 1 p.m. Pacific time on the West Coast. The best coast. This has been another production of VR 364. No, VR 365. Yes, it has been another production of VR 365 Live. This has been episode 19. Episode 20 is tomorrow on Sunday. We like to call it Sunday Fun Day. Usually we just kind of have what is normally known as a shit show and just kind of go in any possible direction with our Sunday episode. I believe we're having a VR roundtable episode tomorrow, or maybe we're not. I should probably check on this before I do these shows, right? Well, this show will probably start around 11 a.m. Pacific time, or if there is a VR roundtable episode tomorrow, I forgot to double check. This show will probably start about 15 minutes after that. But anyways, I will see everybody tomorrow on Sunday around 11 a.m. Pacific time noon. See you guys then. Take it easy. Later.